As a supporting character in the 1970s comic book The Tomb of Dracula, the character was developed in 1973 by writer Marv Wolfman and illustrator Gene Colan for Marvel Comics. Coming after the release of Blade, the character was retroactively changed into a Dhampir and redesigned to match his film counterpart. In the comics, Blade was born in the 1920s in Soho, London. Orphaned after a vampire kills his mother during childbirth, Blade's mother was bitten by a vampire while she was giving birth to Blade, rendering him immune to being turned into a vampire. Blade meets a man named Jamal Afari in the 1930s, who raises him in the ways of vampire hunting. Eventually, in the 1940s, Dracula turns Afari into a vampire, and 20-year-old Blade has to kill his father figure. When the new remake premieres, all eyes will be on it, and fingers crossed, it looks like it'll be worth watching. Although the movie is still in its early stages and not much is known about it, we do have a few significant pieces of information to reveal about the forthcoming MCU feature. Mahershala Ali made his MCU debut as Blade in Eternals post-credit sequence, which is why Marvel Studios might have included a surprise like this in the Phase 4 movie. It was unexpected that Marvel Studios chose Eternals for Mahershala Ali's screen debut as Blade's entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Blade first appeared in the MCU in the post-credit sequence in Eternals. When Dane Whitman, Kit Harington, prepared to take up the Ebony Blade for the first time, Ali's voice could be heard speaking to him. Although the vampire hunter wasn't physically present on the screen, many people expected Blade to make his acting debut in Eternals, so hearing his voice at first was a little perplexing. When Mahershala Ali's casting as Blade was announced at San Diego Comic-Con in 2019, rumors about the potential location of his debut appearance quickly spread. Said to be saved for the Blade standalone film, the MCU has a history of introducing future leading characters in other works first. This sparked speculation that Mahershala Ali would show up in a variety of Phase 4 projects, including Moon Knight and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Both of those scenarios are still conceivable, but neither of them turned out to be the ideal introduction for Blade to the MCU. Marvel may reveal a lot of information about him and the Ebony Blade. Before Dane's uncle perhaps, Blade once owned the renowned sword, and that relationship with the vampire may have resulted from that possession. Another theory contends that the Ebony Blade is connected to the beginnings of vampires in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Ebony Blade has a blood hunger and curse, hence, these components might have been changed to cooperate with the blood-sucking creatures. Kit Harington made his Marvel debut in Eternals, but he wasn't part of the titular godlike group of immortals. Instead, Harington's character was a human named Dane Whitman, the alter ego of a superhero known as the Black Knight. It wasn't until the post-credit scene that Dane's other identity was acknowledged, teasing that the character would come into play in a future MCU project. The indication was that Harington would be showing up in the upcoming Blade film starring Mahershala Ali. But how would the Black Knight fit in? With Mahershala Ali set to play Blade in the MCU and Jared Leto starring as Morbius in Sony's Marvel Universe, will we get to see a crossover film where the two meet? We certainly hope so. It's a great time to be a comic book fan. It seems that pretty much every Marvel character that's ever appeared in the comics is headed to the big screen one way or another. Even some of the less popular characters, like Kraven the Hunter, are soon set to appear in some form of the MCU, which now appears to cement its status as the most impressive cinematic universe ever conceived. The MCU continues to bridge the gaps between its franchises, with No Way Home being a stunning display of collaboration between Disney and Sony that thrilled fans all over the world. The advent of Phase 4 of the MCU seems to be gearing up toward a darker future for some of Earth's mightiest heroes, while introducing some horror-themed characters to the larger cinematic universe. The first of such characters is the living vampire himself, Morbius. A scientifically created pseudo-vampire, Dr. Michael Morbius turned himself into a creature of the night accidentally after he tried to cure his rare blood affliction. Frequently mistaken as a true vampire, Morbius has crossed paths with Marvel's most popular vampire hunter, Blade. Though the character began as a villain to both Spider-Man and Blade, Morbius developed a much more complicated backstory that turned him into an unlikely vigilante from time to time. However, due to his condition, Blade usually appears in his comics as an adversary. Aaron Pierre also joins the cast in an unspecified role. Pierre is best known for his performances in the M. Night Shyamalan films Old the Underground Railroad, and Krypton. After the news broke, fan theories immediately went wild. The first popular theory I saw was Dr. Voodoo. As much as I'd love to see the character in the MCU, I think Aaron Pierre as Voodoo would be extremely unlikely, because being Haitian is essential to Jericho Drum's heritage, story, and character. Pierre is from London, and brilliant actor as he may be, it would be a disservice to the role and Haitian representation if Jericho Drum was not played by a Haitian. Another option is Ogun Strong. In the in-universe comics history, Blade joined an international vampire hunting team in the 1960s. They try to pull a trap on Dracula, so Drac pretty much massacres them all. It's an important part of Blade's origin story, and the second part of his hatred of Dracula. Pierre could be playing this character, but from the way Deadline described the role, I think Pierre would surely have something juicier. A third option is Blade's vampire frenemy, Hannibal King. Pierre would be an exciting twist after Ryan Reynolds' portrayal in Blade Trinity, and it could potentially promise Pierre a long future in the MCU alongside the Midnight Suns and the ongoing Darkhold storyline. There could be an argument that Hannibal King is important if MCU Blade is hunting down Deacon Frost as he did in Tomb of Dracula at the end of the 1970s. However, I think they'll avoid Deacon Frost and Hannibal King for the same reason we've never seen Uncle Ben or Harry Osborn in the MCU. I think they're going to launch the character by actively shying away from things the Wesley Snipes movies did, just like MCU Spider-Man avoided elements from the first 5 Spider-Man movies. We've already seen the Deacon Frost story on screen, just like we'd already seen Uncle Ben's death. I think this version of Blade will be further along in his evolution, so Frost will be old history he's already dealt with. This stays truer to the comics as well, because Deacon Frost is primarily Blade's first villain, but Dracula is his Joker. With the theories that Delroy Lindo could be Jamal Afari in flashbacks, there is the potential for Dracula to be a major villain across the past and present storylines of the movie. There'd simply be no need to do Deacon Frost again, and even less need for Hannibal King. However, the one idea I haven't seen anywhere else, but I think is a particularly strong theory, is Aaron Pierre could be playing young Blade. If this is going to be a Blade semi-origin movie, then it makes sense that the first castings would be Blade, Mahershala Ali, Jamal Afari, and young Blade. Young Blade is not like most young superheroes. He's not a helpless kid who appears in a brief flashback sequence, just as his parents die. Because of the importance of the Jamal Afari storyline, young Blade would have to be a late teens, early 20s character with major screen time, because it is a significant emotional story from Blade's past. We know Pierre was cast in a major co-starring role, with Deadline reporting that his role's casting process started in the fall alongside Delroy Lindo's. With the theory that Lindo could be Jamal Afari, it makes sense for the other role to be young Blade, because they would be the two primary characters in Blade's flashback story, working closely together for their scenes.